Hello again, I'm Doug Smith and welcome to the April 2016 edition of Portsmouth This Week. Our guest today is Tom Kenworthy, Assistant Superintendent of Schools in Portsmouth and a new father. Congratulations, Tom. I understand it was a boy.
Thank you, Doug. Yes, it was.
So you now have one boy and two girls?
2 girls and a boy, yep.
Okay, well, the fun begins, as you know. You've been through it before.
I know.
Last December, you came on the show to discuss the PARCC assessment. And can you give us an update on what's going on with PARCC?
Sure. So we're actually in the middle of our PARCC window. What it's called, there's 2 windows throughout the year that schools can give the PARCC test. Portsmouth is in the middle of our window right now, which is technically running from March 28th through May 13th. Most of our testing is taking place. We're trying to get it done during the month of April. So all of our schools that are involved, so that includes students in grades 3 through 8 and high school students in English 9 and 10 or Algebra 1 and Geometry. So in their English courses or math courses, those students will be taking a few PARCC exams over the month of April. Okay, so these tests are coming up in the next months? Yeah, we started last week. Most of the schools have at least gone through with one group or another with one phase of the test, so it's ongoing.
Now, did we do this last year for the first time?
We did. Last year was the PARCC is the new state assessment. We've transitioned to align to the Common Core state standards, and last year was our first go-around. We received the results in the fall. It was a little late because of the first administration and so forth. We're supposed to get those results back sooner and sooner now that we're into the testing. So I came on in December to give a recap of what our scores were for last year. And just to refresh everybody's memory, generally how did Portsmouth students do? So we did okay. I mean, we didn't do as well, I think, as we would have liked to have seen, and where Portsmouth kind of traditionally falls. I think in general, when you look at the previous state test, which is the kneecap, the science exam, which is given at the high school level, where they give various the SAT or AP. When we get those results, usually we see Portsmouth at any level in the top 5. That wasn't the case for the most part in PARCC, and so we're hoping that just as we make more and more of a transition to the assessment itself and the teaching and learning practices that go along with it, that'll improve. Also, our participation rate last year was definitely an area that we need to improve. We do.
Yeah, PARCC is basically meant to assess students' readiness for careers or colleges. How can we use the test results we get from this on an annual basis, say, to help our students improve?
Sure. Well, with any test like this, we don't want it to be the sole measure that we're using. It's one piece of data that we're using to inform us about either decisions about individual students or our teaching and learning practices as a whole. But this is an important measure. Every subject that's taught in any grade now, the Common Core, the standards that have been adopted by Rhode Island, so mainly in English language arts and mathematics, but really that permeates through all the different subjects, as you can imagine. So those are the standards that we're teaching. This is the test that measures those standards. This is showing us how well our students are going to be prepared for college and careers when they leave us in Portsmouth. So the main thing is we really want to make sure that we get accurate results. So we want, all we ask of our students is that they try their hardest, but we definitely need to get that participation there towards full participation to get those accurate results.
Well, it's probably too early, or maybe it isn't, but have or will we see any changes to the curriculum based on PARCC results?
Yeah, I think, a lot of that had been happening already. Although PARCC was administered for the first time last year, we've been transitioning to the Common Core standards for a number of years. So those changes have started to occur, and I think definitely over time we'll use that piece of data we get from the PARCC results to help us make decisions about our curriculum.
If we tweak it.
If we see a particular area, we know students are going to be assessed on that year after year, and if they're not performing well, after a couple of years, if the data is consistent, that's telling us we have to, make a tweak, like you said, make some sort of change in our curriculum.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons it's very important, I think, to do this. This particular assessment program, PARCC, is mandated by the state of Rhode Island.
It is.
And I think we're part of, I don't know, 11 or 12 other states that
Yeah, there's been a
use
little
this.
bit of fluctuation, but I think it's around a dozen states now that are using PARCC in particular. The key thing there that I think there's some misunderstanding about is if states aren't using PARCC, they're using something else. There's a federal requirement to test students annually in English language arts, which is basically reading and writing and mathematics. So whether it's PARCC or something else, states have to be using something.
Yeah, perhaps that's the reason that it seems kind of controversial, and I think the problem is, as we talked about last time, if our participation rate level falls below 95%,
Yeah, that's the key number.
there's going to be some impacts. And
Sure.
What could happen, or what would be the impact of that?
So there is some language in different regulations at the federal level where if a school or a district doesn't have that 95% participation rate, you could lose what Title I funding. So that's the funding that helps us. We do receive a little bit of it here in Portsmouth. It helps us target interventions, extra support we can give the students who are struggling. So that's a key piece of money that districts count on from year to year. So that language is there in the Title I regulations. Now the federal government has said they're not at the point where they're ready to start bringing the hammer down and enforcing that, but it's there. It could happen at any particular point. I think one of the ways that we definitely saw it affect schools, although it didn't affect us directly in Portsmouth, based on last year's results, it could potentially. The state uses those results to classify or basically rank schools. So they did do that classification off of last year's results. And they have said that in order to achieve the highest level, which is commendable status, which many of our schools are used to receiving, that you have to have that 95% participation number. So only one of our schools had that participation rate last year. That was our Melville Elementary. We were close to it in a lot of other grades. Again, we would like to make sure that we're there across the board. And none of our schools had the results that would have put them in that commended category last year. Again, in some cases we were just a little bit shy of it. But going forward, we have to have the results and that 95% participation rate, or else, and there were some examples across the state last year where schools had the results that would have given them the commended status, but didn't have the 95% participation rate, and they weren't able to get it.
Now, as I recall, I think our general overall participation rate was a little bit less than 90%. Is that about right?
Collectively, yeah, and then that fluctuated depending on the grade level.
So the bottom line is, conceivably at least, we could be losing state and federal funding for
It's conceivable. I think in the immediate impact that I don't want to see us be affected by is again, I have full confidence that going forward Portsmouth is going to be where we normally are when it comes to how well our students perform in these assessments, and I don't want us to be in a situation where schools do well at a particular grade and then we can't have that commended status because our participation rate isn't
for
where
some
it needs to be.
administrative kind of reason,
Right.
I guess. Yeah. Will there be any impact on the students that choose to opt out of PARCC?
So again, we're not. We would expect that students who are in our schools, the expectation at the state level is that they participate in assessments as we ask them to do it. We really don't see this opt-out movement, if you will, or parents, refusing to allow their students to participate. We really don't see it anywhere else other than PARCC, and it didn't started to bubble up last year. So it's kind of been a new thing for us to deal with here in Portsmouth. Again, we would expect parents to trust us that anything that we're thinking is important enough to have students participate in is something that we need to do. So the most immediate effect that's going to be felt, again, because at the end of the day we're not going to force anybody. We're not in that business of forcing students to take the assessment. At the end of the day, the students and parents are not going to have those results, which going forward more and more we're going to be using for important decisions that we're making about individual students or our curriculum. So they're not going to see those results. And then I think if I were a parent, potentially the bigger impact there is going to be on graduation requirements. So right now, because of the transition to PARCC, there's been a moratorium, if you will, on the use of the state assessment as part of graduation requirements. So what the Department of Education has said is that the class of 2021, that would be our current 7th grade students, that's where we're going to see the graduation requirement link to PARCC come back. So the state, I know, has been conducting a series of workshops all around the state. We had one here on the island in Middletown a few weeks ago to get, this is the last phase, to get some public input into the final decision that's going to be made, but they haven't wavered from, in some way, shape, or form, starting with that 7th grade class of 2021, PARCC is going to be included again as a graduation requirement. So
okay, so potentially there is an impact down the road.
Definitely, and again, I would think, the best thing we can do is to make sure our students have as many chances of kind of getting acclimated to the test as possible before they reach high school, where now
when it becomes really important. I'm trying to understand why any parent would want their kid to opt out of PARCC. I can't figure it out.
Sure. So, as with anything, we try to have a collaborative relationship with our parents and be understanding when they feel strongly about a particular issue. So, I think the best way to explain it, from what I've seen in conversations I've had with our parents, you have this convergence of, there's a certain faction that is just very adamant against what they see as too much government interference and telling, districts how to run schools and parents what their children should be doing. But again, we're in public education, so there's going to be a certain part of that. But there are certainly some parents who believe very strongly in that. And then, I think there's been a lot of misinformation which has fueled things, and a lot of times when parents contact either the principal at the building level or myself, there are a lot of cases where we're able to explain and kind of ease parents' minds after having a conversation with them, because they've just heard so much misinformation. And
and I think it's something new. Like you say, we just started it last year, so things new are kind of scary.
Right, but certainly, we try to be respectful and work with parents as we always would to get them to understand why we
now can parents, if parents are concerned in some way, can they contact you?
Absolutely. We've put out numerous communications, as we will continue to do. Parents can always contact me. My best advice is always building principals as well. Our principals are all fantastic and very adept at having these kinds of conversations as well. As you know, we did, in the district, we had an assessment forum in December where we had pretty good turnout, and really just tried to kind of have this continuing conversation about why assessment in general is important, and particularly these assessments.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the messages you want to leave then. If people have concerns, maybe, again, it's normal for parents to be concerned about their kids. They probably ought to talk to you, because we do need to get that participation rate up. I don't think they're doing anybody a favor. Believe me, if you ask any school child, school kid, you want to take a test or not, the answer is not.
Right.
But we're tested all our lives,
right.
And this is just another one. And the thing that attracts me to this whole system is that we're bringing in global standards here.
Right.
We're not just looking at what fits in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
We're looking at
how
you operate.
Right. There's still a number of states, including Massachusetts, is still in the PARCC consortium, although there's been some conversations about what they might do. But right now they're still in it, so it is good to have other comparisons other than the districts in Rhode Island. Prior to PARCC, we were in a multi-state consortium with NECAP, with New Hampshire, Vermont, and then Maine. Yeah, this is just expanded a little bit.
Yeah.
Again, different set of standards that everything is based on. But I guess the last thing I would leave there's always going to be standards. There's always going to be, a federally required assessment. Right now, it just happens to be Common Core and PARCC.
And the thing is, honestly, I guess if my kids were involved in this, I'd want to know. I'd want to know how they do based on this kind of standard. Mm-hmm. And then if they're deficient in some areas, I would try to help them out.
Right, and we did, and like I said, when we received results in the fall, there was a pretty extensive piece of information that parents received. I know myself, I'm a parent of students in public schools, so I received it for my own child who is in a grade that's taking PARCC, and the parents who didn't, I thought one of the things that was good that the State Department of Education did, if we didn't have a score on a student, which was probably most likely because for whatever reason the student opted out of, or the parents of taking the test, they still received a report that showed them what information they were missing out on. This is what you would have received, the information about your parents. So yeah. Okay,
well, with any luck, and as people get used to this, that it's going to be here, we're going to have to deal with it in the coming years. People will reconsider perhaps and get their kid to take this.
I mean, things are definitely better, I think, overall with everybody's comfort level than they were last year. Hopefully it just continues to get better each year.
Yeah, I know there were concerns last year about computer, not computer, all these kind of different things, and again, that's a function of being new and figuring out how to do it the right way.
Right.
Hopefully this year it'll be a lot smoother.
Hoping.
So good luck, and
thank you.
Again, I think it's a great thing. Just keep pressing, I guess.
Right.
We just recently had a NEASC accreditation visit to the high school.
Yeah.
Having gone through a couple of those when I was teaching in college, I know how stressful those could be on the principal and the teachers at the school. How do we do?
So, overall, I think it went very well. So NEASC is the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. They're the main accrediting agency for all colleges and universities and high schools in the New England area. It's a good piece of information to have, to be able to say that your school has been accredited by NEASC. So it happens on a 10-year cycle. So our last accreditation visit would have been in 2006. This has been now the 10-year progression. So there's a number of things that schools have to do along the way over those 10 years to kind of, keep themselves, keep their accreditation up, and then get ready for the next visit. So, our staff at the high school has been working incredibly hard for the last about 18 months. That's with the self-study. That's the last phase, getting ready, and the staff, the administration, the principal. It was a good culminating visit. When the visit concluded on Wednesday, we won't see the actual report for a couple of months, but there is a quick readout of what are going to be the key findings. So the superintendent and I attended that session on Wednesday, and again, everything we heard was very positive. I don't think there's going to be anything that would keep us from maintaining that accreditation. There'll be some recommendations, I'm sure. I mean, the group spent, group of visiting team members that came in spent a lot of time, so certainly we want to get their feedback and just be able to use those recommendations.
I bet Bob Littlefield's glad it's over.
Absolutely. Like I said, everybody there did a tremendous job just getting ready for the visit, and I know the team that was here was very complimentary of everything that happened.
Good, that's great. It's only high schools, right, that are accredited?
Yeah, so that's the requirement. There is, I think NEASC has a certain, they'll come out and look at other schools, but you have to pay them to do that. Most districts don't take advantage of that. Okay. Their main focus is on colleges and universities and high schools.
Okay, great. Well, that's a plus, certainly.
Right.
Another program that we talked about the last time and I've heard about since is this student one-to-one technology program. Right. Can you talk a little bit about that, because that's moving into the middle school?
Yep. So we have a pilot program that's been happening this year at our middle school, and then we've presented our budget now. One of the things we can talk about when we end, the school department budget's getting ready to be presented to the town council. So included in that budget is a full implementation of a one-to-one program. We're going to start at the 6th grade level next year. So for those students, they will get their own device, which we will have them keep for the time that they're...
What's it, about 12 years old, 13?
6th grade? Yeah, about 12, 11, 12, 13, depending on
So they get essentially like a laptop or a notebook.
We're going with, the plan again is we're going with Chromebook devices. So it's a really stripped down laptop type device that just allows them easy internet access, and in this day and age,
so it works off the internet rather than internally, I guess. That's great, I think. How
Yeah,
are the
and
kids
Yeah, I mean,
accepting
the
it?
pilot's been going very well at the middle school. I know, students and teachers are excited about it. Again, where this is, it's very common now, and just about every district has some version of this. We're going to look to kind of
Yeah.
grow. This is where we're going to start, and then we're going to look to grow the initiative here in Portsmouth. And it's just about making sure that our students have, this is what 21st century teaching and learning is all about. They have to have that, immediate access to be able to really tap into.
See, if I was a young 11-year-old, 12-year-old boy, I would use that as a reason why I need an iPhone.
Many of them have those
I'm
as
sure they
well.
do.
I'm sure.
But kids can use their own devices, as I recall.
At the high school, yeah.
the high
That's,
school, okay.
so that's one of the things we're going to look to kind of blend this one-to-one device initiative with this. It's called BYOD, or Bring Your Own Device Initiative. That's been in place at the high school for a number of years.
Yeah.
So.
I imagine this gets expensive buying all these things and then repairing them or keeping them up.
Yeah, so I mean, there's some districts have decided to jump into this with multiple grades, or we went out and visited a number of districts over the past few years as we were looking at what making sure we had the right fit for us, and we visited a couple districts that went in K-12 across the board. I mean, that's a very expensive endeavor. So we're we're going to start slow and see where this takes us.
So what we're looking for is somebody like Apple or Microsoft or somebody to come into Portsmouth
Sure,
and
we'll,
say, hey, we can help you guys.
we'll always take that. Absolutely.
That's great. It's going to be fun, too, for kids,
Yeah.
because then they can use it at home, do their homework.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
a whole new
excited
thing.
about it. I think
that's good.
It's going to be a good thing.
You also have some stuff coming up in the STEAM program. Can you describe STEAM
Yep.
and tell us what's coming up?
Sure. So STEAM's a big focus here in Portsmouth of how we try and wrap our curriculum. So STEAM, the letters stand for Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Mathematics. So that's the STEAM. And it's really just a combination of everything that takes place in all of those areas to really make sure that we're preparing students for the jobs of the 21st century, if you will. So what our elementary schools in particular decide, STEAM is happening all over the place at all of our schools, but our elementary schools in particular, Melville and Hathaway, this year have proposed these STEAM weeks. So Melville's is going to be next week, and then Hathaway is the week after April break. Because they're utilizing a lot of the same people and resources, so they split them up a little bit. But there's just going to be all sorts of activities in the areas of science and technology and the arts taking place, mostly in school, so that the students will be able to access, or presenters that they're bringing in for assemblies. There are a few nighttime activities. I know they have like a science night happening as part of it, that kind of thing. We have a lot of exciting collaborations happening. Our Portsmouth High School computer science class is going to go down to each of the schools at some point during the week, and do a programming activity with the students. Raytheon, I know, is getting involved and sending some people to come do a few things. A lot of things in the art and music area, so they're very excited.
Now, if parents or even non-parents wanted to see what these things look like, is there a way they could visit any of these things? Or
I mean, they could contact the principal to see. Again, I don't know.
There may be
any
some
of those
that
activities. Yeah,
are
certainly the
in-
nighttime activities, probably. The in-school stuff. But best thing to do there would be to contact the principals and see. And again, this isn't just happening in those weeks. We're trying to really put the focus on, bring a lot of those things together. But a lot of these types of things happen in all of our schools throughout the year.
Yeah, I think we got to push programming as far down so by the time they get to high school, they're gurus at this stuff.
Yeah, and we have that computer science class at the high school is really neat. Some of the stuff they can do, so they're going to come and work.
I think a lot of us can't even comprehend that because I have no idea how to program.
Absolutely.
But, it's got to be interesting, and it's certainly what's needed in the workplace. There was a proposal by the governor and the education commissioner to create empowerment and choice districts, whatever that means. Can you explain some of that? And how
Sure.
that
So we're
might roll out
trying to, we're staying attentive to the conversations. We've made sure we've attended all the meetings. They haven't made any final decisions on what any of this is going to look like, but basically empowerment would be they're talking about starting with a few schools. So, no more than one per district, I think, if we were to decide to go this way. But it would basically be handing a lot of autonomy down to a school level. So when it comes things like budget and hiring, which now ultimately get filtered through the superintendent to the school committee, this would be giving a lot of that autonomy to a school. Few things that still need to be worked out. If we were to decide to participate, you would need to have the support from our teachers union. You would need 2/3 of the faculty of the school and the principal to agree. So again, no final decisions on anything have been made, but we're staying close to the conversation to see if it might be something that would be a good fit for one of our schools. And then the real key there is that choice concept that you said. So what's also been proposed as part of that is opening up districts to be able to take in students right now from anywhere across the state if they wanted to come. In order to do that, you have to have an empowerment school in your district. So that's the carrot, so to speak, that's being dangled. So that's why we're staying close to the conversation. Empowerment, the empowerment concept is intriguing, but the school choice one is also something that we're very interested in. We think we have a lot to offer here in Portsmouth, so we would love to be able to bring in students from anywhere around the state.
It just seems kind of strange to be pushing those kind of decisions, administrative, et cetera, decisions down. I thought that's basically what the function of a school department was.
It is. So that's why this would be a new concept. There's examples of other areas in the country where they've tried it and it's working. Again, I don't think it's anything that you would want to jump into large scale.
Sure.
Like I said, we don't know whether it would be a good fit for us, but we're just kind of staying in tune to the conversations right now and seeing where that takes us.
I look forward to hearing more about that in the future. How does Portsmouth fit into this kind of charter school controversy that's going on?
Yeah, so here in the East Bay in general, we don't have a charter school, so to speak. So it's one of those, you hear the conversation taking place. There are some areas of the state where it's a much bigger issue for the public districts. We don't have a charter school here on the East Bay, and then there's the way it works is there's a transportation zone, and our transportation zone is basically the East Bay, where if a student in Portsmouth wanted to attend the Career and Tech Center in Newport, for instance, or the Met School, that's within the East Bay zone, so we have to provide transportation for them to do that. So we don't have a charter school. It doesn't come up as often for us. We have a handful of students who actually do choose to attend charter schools, but we can't provide transportation for them to do so. So that falls on the parent, which is, it has to be the right fit for the parent and the family. So we don't see it as much, but there are some parts of the state where they have multiple charter schools within their transportation zone, and they're losing a lot of their public school students to the charter schools.
I would think your approach would be, show me the money, please.
Right.
We're just about out of time, but we're going to talk with Anna,
next week,
Superintendent Riley, next week on the school budget. I believe they're going before the council this next week.
Wednesday evening. I believe all of the various town departments are presenting Tuesday and Wednesday evening. The school department budget presentations Wednesday evening. So we're looking forward to that, where we think again we have a good budget that we've put a lot of work into that we're presenting, and I think Anna and Chris Dioro, our Director of Finance, will be here next week to talk more about it.
Okay, Tom, thanks very much for coming in. And we'll see you next time on Portsmouth This Week.
Great, thank you.